As I've lived and traveled across the country, engaging with various people and culture, I often think about the quote, "Don't judge a man before you've walked 2 moons in his moccasins." It's the aphorism that gave the title to the acclaimed young adult book, Walk 2 Moons by Sharon Creech, something I've read in my preteen years and has just really stayed and resonated with me over the years. It highlights this common challenge, right? To understand people, you need to step into their shoes. But unfortunately, in our current social and political divide, it's making it increasingly challenging for us to exemplify this to the next generation. But as educators committed to lifelong learning, it's imperative that we are challenged to help the next generation to reach across the aisle, to learn cross-culturally, and to be prepared for that ever-changing and increasingly diverse society. And we need to be aware of the biases and misconceptions, the stereotypes that can really get in the way of meaningful cross-cultural experiences, especially those that exist within ourselves. So about over a decade ago, I moved to Central Kentucky and became the director of the Global Engagement Office at a small liberal arts Christian university, Asbury University in Central Kentucky. And part of my purview was this academic requirement called the cross-cultural engagement requirement. Every senior needed to have a cross-cultural experience before graduating. During my 5.5 years there, we grew the initiative, we grew the program, expanded the office, added more rigor to the curriculum, and we also actually allowed them to stateside experiences because I wanted students to be able to shoulder the costs, the potential absorbent costs of traveling, and I honestly saw the need for our students, who are predominantly Kentuckians, to see America from a different perspective, to see it from a different cultural lens around the country. I remember meeting a young man from Harlan, Kentucky, a place deep in the Appalachian Mountains of Eastern Kentucky, and at the time, a place so foreign to my understanding. His thick accent made it difficult for me to understand what he was saying, and he had unfortunately not done his CCE, his cross-cultural experience requirements. It was his senior year, and unfortunately, he had to also move home to take care of his mother. So he was going to finish up school remotely. They were going to allow him. I was concerned that he wasn't going to be able to complete this course, and I ignorantly wondered, why did he have to be the caretaker? Couldn't there be someone else? So I worked with him on creating this unconventional cross-cultural experience. I didn't know Harlan then, but I gathered it wasn't cross-culturally or culturally diverse, ethnically diverse. We decided he would explore the small Latino community in his town. Through a local tutoring program in elementary school, he was matched with a young Mexican boy and became his tutor that semester. He also became a regular customer at the local Mexican restaurant. I signed him books, articles, documentaries, and so we did our best to kind of piece this all together to give him this intercultural experience. When he was finally done with his project, he drove back up to campus, handed me his assignments. His final essay struck a chord in me and has stayed with me ever since. As I was reading through his finished project, I realized how much I had underestimated this student from Harlem. He was articulate, his writing was beautiful, profound, honest. He was a thoughtful storyteller. You see, I consider myself cross-culturally aware, interculturally competent. I was born in Taiwan, immigrated to the US as a small child, grew up in a bicultural atmosphere outside of the New York City metropolitan area. I spent my adult years traversing the Midwest for my undergrad and graduate degree, and then spent years climbing the ladder in our nation's capital. I thought I had gained the right credentials, skill set, experiences to minister a global engagement office. And yet, I had shamefully stereotyped this student from Eastern Kentucky. I misjudged his writing skills due to his accent and where he was from. I also wasn't convinced that this not so quite immersive experience, cross-cultural experience, was going to be a growing point for him. I didn't know that he was going to make such meaning out of this experience. So while my student was tutoring this young Mexican boy, this young student tragically lost his father due to deportation, all within that semester. As a result, this young student ended up living with the family that ran the Mexican restaurant. And my student in this small town wasn't just a customer. In this close-knit community, he was a friend. And he was showing up for this student and showing up for this family. As for his own family, this Asbury student, there was no one else in this family that could take care of his mother who recently suffered a stroke. No one else healthy enough to do that. And she was the matriarch, the thread that held that family together. Financially, he wasn't able to finish up school the way he was attending Asbury, and being able to do it remotely gave him a way to save the money he didn't already have. And despite all of his personal challenges and tragedies, and as he engaged with the Latino community in this town, he thoughtfully expressed how this experience helped him realize the privilege he held as a white male in this rural Appalachian town. Furthermore, how he challenged me of my own biases and misconceptions is what caught me off guard. As much as I was doing my best to challenge the students at Asbury to deepen their understanding of others, I was on this cross-cultural journey. Statistics would tell you that Harlem is a place that is plagued by drug addiction, and since the decline of the coal industry, high joblessness rates and high poverty rates, not to mention the lack of educational opportunities and significant health concerns. And while all of this might be true, over time I have come to see that this place is so rich in cultural heritage. The strong connections to bluegrass and folk music, the storytelling culture that exists there, and the place of beautiful, great outdoors that rivals the Smoky Mountains. Harlem boasts a rich history that is shaped significantly by African American miners and the historical presence of Native American tribes. And the Harlem I have come to know is a beautiful place with strong people, a resilient spirit, and a unique cultural identity. I've made friends with school, nonprofit, community leaders, each working harder than the next person to make this place better for the next generation. Some who have left and come back home, others who now call it their home. And Harlan has taught me to walk 2 moons in her moccasins. It has taken me a lot more than 2 moons. And frankly, this is probably the first time I'm sharing this story publicly. But I'm so thankful for the people of Eastern Kentucky and the many ways that they have been patient and they have continued to stretch me and help me grow. Intentionally addressing our biases is difficult work. It demands vulnerability. It pushes us to confront our prejudices. But recognizing our shortcomings, our areas of growth, is so essential in co-creating a more inclusive and empathetic world for the next generation. And so as proponents of lifelong learning, I challenge you to remember, we're never too old, too wise, or too expert to lean into discomfort and to walk 2 moons in someone else's moccasins. And I just wanted to add just a little bit more personalized even further, and maybe perhaps for those who are in biracial or mixed race relationships can understand this even more deeply. And with my husband, and really the personal reason of why I'm in Eastern Kentucky is my husband is 8th generation Eastern Kentuckian and comes from a long line of coal miners, and we're raising 4 children in what we've been calling them as Appalachians. And so this is personal to me, and it's a personal journey, and I find myself constantly having to, battle those misconceptions and those misunderstandings between one another. But I encourage you all to think about all the ways that we can continue to learn, because we're never at that point of, we are absolutely we understand. We're constantly having to do that for our lifetimes. Thank you so much.